What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to do a full walkthrough of my rod and reel arsenal that you guys requested. This has been a video that you guys have requested for a very long time, so I brought out the old Shimano rack with all my rods and reels on there, and we're going to walk through some of my favorites, technique-specific stuff, my backups, all of it. But before we jump into this video, I do want to mention that you do not need all these rods and reels to obviously get out and go fish. You do not need some of this high-end stuff to get out and fish. It does make life a little bit easier on the water. I have an opportunity to run this stuff, so I'm going to do it. But with that, let's jump into this video. Alright guys, so obviously a lot of rods and reels behind me. I got some high-end stuff, some low-end stuff, mostly G.Loomis rods, but some technique-specific Shimano rods as well. I do want to say that I do have more rods than reels, because reels I can always change them out to other rods for specific techniques. I got a little bit of different things so that, you know, I have 15-pound fluoro on some, 12-pound fluoro on others, braid on some reels, and that just allows me to kind of pick and choose which rod I need to use for that day, and that's the reason why I have a little bit more reels, but most importantly, a lot more rods. Let's start things off with some fun combos. So this is my big bait rod. This is a G.Loomis IMX Pro 966 swim bait rod. This throws 3 to 8 ounce. This is for my much bigger swim baits, 8 inches and bigger, but mostly the heavier stuff. So here I got, I believe this is a 9-inch Sly Guy right there in a coconut color. Big glide baits, big 8-inch swim baits, you know, like a HUD, stuff like that. That's what I use this for. I recently just got this, so I haven't really thrown it a whole bunch, but paired with that, I got a Tranks 300 HG. So this is the high gear version, 25-pound fluorocarbon. This is an 8-foot rod, and I can store this obviously in my Topwater box behind me, but that is one of my big bait rods. Along with that, we have another swim bait rod, very similar. This is again IMX Pro swim bait rod. This is a 965 8-foot. This one is 2 to 6 ounces. This is for my little bit lighter stuff like a Huddleston rate of fall 1268. On that, I have a Tranks 300. This is the actually lower gear ratio model, and with that 25-pound fluoro as well. I like this for some of my slow dragging like this on the bottom during the winter time. If I'm going out to throw big baits, usually these two is what I'm going to bring to cover both of those applications. To continue the big bait rods, I do have a backup, and that is a SLX. This is a 7-foot 2 to 8 ounce swim bait rod. You can see it has a big old handle on the back, and this is one that's really cost effective. I think this rod is about $120, something like that. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, this is another swim bait rod that I have just in case if I'm going down to Clear Lake early springtime throwing some big baits. You know, accidents do happen. I do like to have backup rods, and for the price, this is a hard one to beat. To continue with the big swim baits, but a little bit smaller scale, I got 2 of these combos actually. IMX Pro 904 swim bait rod. This is a 1/2 to 3 ounce. Throw stuff like my 6-inch glide baits, the Negotiator, you know, a slide swimmer, all that stuff, but also like the soft swim baits, a mag draft, dangerous swim bait, all those type of things. Each of these I have paired with a Shimano Corrado DC 200 size, a little bit bigger spool. I usually run anywhere from 15 to 20-pound line on this, but yeah, this is one of my favorites. You guys have seen I've been using these rods in most of my videos, throwing some of those bigger baits. And yeah, that is it right there. And of course, the other one. This one I had a little bit longer with a little mag draft on it right there. But same thing, Corrado DC 200. This one I believe has 17-pound fluoro on it. Okay, let's talk about versatile rods. Now, obviously in a kayak, but not even just a kayak, even on a boat as well, having versatile rods is always nice to have. You can throw different lures on it, different weights, all that. This, I think, arguably is one of the most versatile rods that I've come across, and that is a G.Loomis NRX Plus 893 JWR. So a jig and worm rod. A lot of guys will say that this is one of those ones. It just has a really good backbone, but also really good tip where you can throw something like a chatterbait on, you can throw a Texas rig on, a jig. I've thrown 6-inch Senkos on this, a little bit of everything. And with this, I got a Metanium MGL right there. This is the high gear, so 7-to-1 gear ratio. I think this one I got 15-pound fluoro on it. But man, this is one of my favorites. Even in the old NRX line, this has been one of my favorites. Like I said, it is one of my favorite rods, and that's why I got 2 of them. So same thing, 893 JWR NRX Plus from G.Loomis with a Metanium MGL. This one I have 15-pound fluoro on it as well. And I like to throw my little swim baits on this. So 3/8 ounce is a owner Ultra Head XL with the Z-Man swimmers on the back. This has been one of my favorite combos to use to throw these little swim baits on the Columbia River. But yeah, I got 2 of those for a reason. There were spinner baits on this, little swim baits, all that type of things. Definitely one that I'm always having in the kayak. Going a step up, we have a little bit higher power. This is the 894 JWR. This is a heavy action rod. This is what I use for all my Texas rigs, my jigs, those heavier type of things. Like right here, you can see I got a little Texas rig set up on it. But I got this paired up with a Shimano Bantam right there. So Shimano Bantam, 8-to-1 gear ratio. This is the XG. So anytime I get bit on a jig or a Texas rig, a lot of times you got to set that hook right away. So it allows me to pick up that line quick, set the hook. A little bit stouter rod for those applications. Usually on this, I got 17 or 20-pound fluoro. You think about throwing in heavy cover, this is what I use it for right there. 894 JWR. And of course, with this rod, I have 2 of them. So another 894 JWR, heavy action, but this time with a Corrado DC on it. So this is the 150 size. This one is a 7-to-1 gear ratio, and I got a jig on this. So this one, I like to use it for my skipping setup, right? I don't care what anybody says, this DC technology does help with reducing backlashes. This one, I actually have 20 pounds skipping under docks, skipping under overhanging trees, stuff like that. That's what I have this for. Now, of course, I switch my reels, you know, between different rods and stuff, but usually this reel stays with this one for that reason. Okay, let's get into some more specific stuff. Now, this is a rod that I recently got. I've only caught 1 fish on it, but so far I've been loving it. And that's the G.Loomis GLX 822 jerkbait rod. It is a 6'10" rod. You think about working jerkbaits, always trying to work it in that down position. You don't want super long of a rod or else you're going to hit the water. And this one is the perfect size for that. So right there, we got a little jerkbait, little Mega Bass Vision 110 plus 2. And paired with this, I have an older Shimano Metanium MGL. So this is a 7-to-1 gear ratio. I got 12-pound fluoro on this right now. But I love this Metanium. This is one that's hard for me to get rid of. It bombs a freaking mile. And yeah, if you can pick these up, usually they're a little bit cheaper. I love this. I mean, just bombing these small jerkbaits super far makes it super nice. This is a rod that I'm excited to use come pre-spawn. Sticking with the hard baits, we have one of my favorite rods, and that is a Shimano Zodius. This is a 7'6" medium heavy glass rod. So glass composite. I like the glass composites because they just have such good bend loading up in that rod. So what this does, and what I've learned over the years, is that a lot of times if you use mostly graphite rods, the action, they just go back to straight so quick. So when you get those fish jumps and they're barely hooked, this actually helps from throwing that bait out of their mouths. And that's why this is one of my favorite rods for those applications. Got a 6XD up here. Now, usually this is what I throw max on this, but there are a lot of smaller crankbaits. I have thrown an 8XD on this and it gets done perfectly fine. But on here, I got a Chronarch MGL. This is a 6-to-1 gear ratio. I like a little bit slower gear ratio for me. Honestly, I feel like it's easier to speed up than to slow down. So a lot of times I'll try to get through with the lowest gear ratios I can for some of these techniques. Also a reel that I use for chatterbaits in the early spring when the water's a little bit cooler. Just being able to slow down a little bit more and I don't feel like I am just killing myself slowing down while reeling. But yeah, on this 12-pound fluoro is what I have on it for my deep cranking situation. Now, along with that 7'6", I do have the little bit longer version. This is the 711 medium heavy glass Zodius. I know that's upside down, sorry, but you get the point. This is the 711 version. Again, ounce and a half. Throw this 810 XTs. That's what I use this for. Don't really use this as much in the kayak these days, but definitely when I'm on the boat fishing with my buddies, stuff like that, this was one that I like to use. Sometimes it just gets a little long in the kayak, but it does have its purpose here and there. Staying true with the treble baits, I do got another Zodius. This is the shorter version, the 7.2 medium heavy glass. 7.2, I like to throw a lot of my walking baits on this. Got a little shower blow on there right there from catching smallies. But yeah, got that with a Tranx 200 HG. Most of my braided reels, I usually swap them here and there. So this one's currently on this one from the fall time. But yeah, usually around 50-pound braid, could run 30. I just have 50-pound on there just from using other techniques. But again, another glass rod, throwing top water, those fish always trying to jump to spit it. And that's the reason why I like these glass rods. So the 7.2 version right there. This one, again, goes to 1.25 ounces. But it does have a really good bend so that you can always reduce those chances of those fish pulling off. So right there, good bend to it, low recoil. One of my favorite rods, like I said, for those treble hook baits. Sticking to the crankbait rods, I do have another one that I like to use for like my square bills, rattle traps, stuff like that. That's a G.Loomis GCX 845 CBR crankbait rod. This is a 7-footer, goes up to 1 ounce. This is why, like I said, I throw LV 500s up at Clear Lake. Done that a bunch. That's really what I bought this rod for. Don't really throw a whole bunch of square bills and stuff these days, but it's a good rod for those medium-sized cranks that, you know, dive down less than 10 feet. Always had this. I did use this as a jerkbait rod before, so one of those rods that's versatile for a whole bunch of different things. But right there, 845 CBR. All right, so now we got the rod that broke the first largemouth PB of the year, and that's a 954 GLX. This is a flip and pitch rod from G.Loomis, the newer model of the GLX line, and yeah, 711 up to 1 ounce. This is my punching rod. I used this for the first time at Clear Lake that time, and man, that was super fun. Honestly, good backbone, good bend. You don't want too stiff of a rod, especially some of the mats that I was punching was a little bit more sparse. So this was a great rod for that. And I got paired with it the old Bantam MGL. Love this. The Bantams are my workhorse reels. You'll see that a lot of times when it comes to heavier stuff. Yeah, this is the one that I am mostly using. 65-pound braid, Power Pro. This is what I use, and I think I just got a 3/4 ounce. This is literally the same setup that I use at Clear Lake with a Z-Man Gremlin on there. But yeah, love this rod. Broke the first PB this year. My backup punching rod, which was originally what the punching rod I used at the time, mainly going down to the California Delta, punching hyacinth mats, really thick cover, was a Shimano X Pride. Hopefully the glare isn't too bad, but Shimano X Pride 711 up to 3 ounce. So this is my heavy cover punching rod. You know, those hyacinth mats, sometimes it's really hard to get those bigger fish out of it. This is what I use for that. And yeah, this is the old generation X Pride. Could upgrade to the new one, but honestly, this thing has been so fun, nothing wrong with it, and that's the reason why I still have it. But yeah, 711 X Pride, extra punching rod. This is an absolute broomstick. A lot more backbone for getting those fish out of that heavy cover. Sticking with our heavier rods for braided setups, we have the newer generation of the Shimano X Pride right there. This is a 7'6" heavy. I like to throw a lot of my buzz baits on this, throwing frogs on this, stuff like that, but double buzz baits, single buzz baits. Do a lot of light pitching, you know, into cover, stuff like that. Nothing super heavy. This one is rated up to 1.5 ounces, so I can definitely get it done, but usually I'm flipping heavy jigs into some trees, stuff like that. Paired with it, I have a Shimano Corrado 150 XG. So this is the extra high gear ratio, 8-to-1 gear ratio. I got 65-pound braid on this. This is something that, you know, if I don't know what I'm going to be getting into, this is one of those rods where I feel like it's versatile. If I need to go punch with it, I can do it. If I want to just go flip all day, throw a frog, throw a buzz bait, this is a rod that I usually bring if I don't know and I'm going to a lake with a lot of grass and not sure what they're going to eat. So that's one of my favorites right there. All right, let's get through some of these backup casting rods and we can move over to spinning. So first off, G.Loomis NRX Plus 873 Carolina rig rod, CRR. So 7'3". I like to use this for actually flipping jigs and Texas rigs under docks and stuff like that. A little bit shorter rod, so I can actually flip it and not hit the water. And yeah, this is one of those things, good football jig rod actually, that I've used quite a bit for. Then another rod that I actually forgot about. This is another SLX, sorry it's upside down, but another Shimano SLX 7'3" SWIMBAIT rod, 1 to 4 ounce. Good alternative as a budget-friendly option from some of those IMX Pros. I've thrown mag drafts on this. I've thrown 6-inch swim bait, stuff like that. Again, 1 to 4 ounce. So for, you know, around 120 bucks, I believe the price point is. Again, you have a long handle on the back. This is a rod that obviously is going to be a little bit less sensitivity, but man, I tell you what, it does work really well. Threw a lot of 6-inch ospreys and stuff at Clear Lake with this, and when you get bit, you definitely still know you get bit. Whew. All right. Let me flip this thing around and let's go over some of my spinning setups. Okay, now for the spinning rods. Now, I'll be honest, I don't have as many spinning rods compared to my bait casters, even though spinning I actually catch more fish on, kind of weird. But we're going to start with 2 rods. The reason for that is because I have an older generation and a newer generation of this rod, and this is a rod that I love to use a lot. So this is the G.Loomis GLX 892 JWR 7'5" medium action. A lot of times I use this for my stick baits, 5-inch Senkos, whatever it is. And with that, I run usually a Shimano Vanford 3000. One of the things a lot of people don't know is that between the 2500 and 3000 sizes, same frame size, but the 3000 has a little bit bigger spool and a little bit faster gear ratio. So if I'm throwing a stick bait down the bank and a fish is swimming off with it, and let's say I'm not paying attention, well, a little bit faster gear ratio to pick it up and set that hook. Now for all my spinning reels, I only run 1 braid on it, and that's the Power Pro Super 8 Slick V2 in Moonshine. So that high vis, talk about it all the time, high vis is super important with spinning gear, because a lot of times those fish, you know, you have a slack line, you throw a bait out, you want to be able to see if those fish eat it and swim off of it. Doesn't matter if it's like a Bantam contact bait, a stick bait, whatever it is. A lot of times you'll see your line jump or even take off. And it's just one of the things where you got high bluebird skies, a lot of sun, or even just wavy conditions. A lot of times you can see your braid do a lot of different things that's not normal. A lot of times I run 15 pound for most of that stuff. I feel like it's a good in between. It's not too limp where you get a lot of line twists, but it's also light enough where it's not too thick in diameter. And obviously, for the leader, you know, something like a stick bait, a lot of times I throw 12 pound, if heavier cover, obviously 15, just kind of play with it. A lot of times I use Seagar and VizX or that new Shimano Mastiff. I've been liking that Mastiff, it's been really good. I've played with a lot of different fluorocarbon, and a lot of times they have too much memory, they're not abrasion resistant enough, and those two have been the ones that I've been going to. Now let's talk about drop shot rods. There's only one rod that I really use most of the time for a drop shot, and that's a G.Loomis NRX Plus 822 DSR drop shot rod. So this is my favorite, 6'10", perfect length. Some people like a little bit longer rod. I've been playing with a little bit longer rods here and there, but ultimately I really like the shorter ones. And yeah, this one I got paired with a Shimano Xsense. Again, a 3000 size. This is a much higher end reel in the Shimano lineup. Not quite the flagship, the Stella, but one below it. But one of the reasons why I have this on there is because, again, light line, a lot of times those fish are running. You want to have a good drag system. Most of the time, if you have a higher end spinning reel, you have a much better drag system on there. And yeah, it helps with that. So again, Super 8 Slick V2 from Power Pro, 15 pound. Moonshine, the color, love that. And then, you know, depending on what I'm fishing, 6, 8, 10 pound fluorocarbon. But right there, I got one of my favorite hooks for drop shot and cover. That's the cover shot from Owner. And then I have a Z-Man SMH worms on there. This is what I recently used fishing the home lake. And then obviously you got your little leader below it to your drop shot weight. I actually been using these little Calcos things that holds your little tungsten weight, or if you want to, lead weight. But right there, that is my drop shot setup. Next, we got a rod that, in my opinion, is comparable to that 893 I showed you guys earlier, and that's the NRX Plus 872 JWR, so 7'3", extra fast medium. This has been one of my favorite rods to use for all applications. Throw Ned rigs on that. This is what I caught my PB on with that bait right there, the Z-Man SMH Worms Purple Rain. You guys have seen it's been one of my favorite colors, but a little bit of a do-everything rod. Again, you can throw Senkos on this, shaky head, Ned rig, throw a drop shot in heavier cover. This has been one of those ones that I love. And again, I got paired with this another Shimano Xsense 3000. The reason for that is because this is one of those rods that I always have to bring just in case. So yeah, that is one of my favorite for versatility. And of course, the other one, this one I got paired with another Shimano Vanford. This is another 3000. This is the newer Vanford. And yeah, another awesome rod. This is what I use for mostly my Demiki rigging, mid strolling, bottom strolling, all that. Same thing as most of my other combos, 15 pound Super 8 Slick V2 from Power Pro Moonshine. And yeah, this one is my Demiki rig setup. I think I got 8-pound fluoro on this. This one's Shimano Mastiff with that owner range roller and the Z-Man drop kickers. Whew, alright, we got one left. It's a lot of rods. So this is the last spinning rod that I have that I usually have for specific applications, and that is another G.Loomis NRX Plus, but this time it is the 902 JWR, 7'6". This is a fast medium action, 1/8 to 3/8 ounce. So this one's a little bit longer. I like this for throwing a lot of my lighter Ned rigs, tubes, stuff like that. 7'6", casts a lot farther, and this one has a lot lighter action, a little more bend, so throw 6-pound fluoro, stuff like that. This is one I use for specific applications. Obviously, it's not one that I always bring with me, but it's nice to have. You know, if I'm fishing in Colombia and need to bomb those casts in a heavy current, then this is one that I bring for throwing tubes, Ned rigs, stuff like that. But yeah, that's one of the other and last spinning rods. But yeah, guys, those are my 25 rods and X amount of reels in my arsenal. But like I said at the beginning of the video, you do not need all these rods, obviously, to go fish. You don't need to go spend hundreds of dollars to go catch fish. But it does make it nice. You know, I've been fishing for almost my entire life. I've been bass fishing for 11 years and tried a lot of different things. You know, some of these higher end rods, they're specific. There's a lot of R&D work that goes into it for those specific techniques. Now, something like spinning gear, definitely recommend having some higher end stuff because light line sensitivity, plus holding that, you know, something like a shaky head or a drop shot. If you're shaking that thing all day long, if you got a really heavy rod, that's just wear and tear on your body. Jerkbait rod, you don't want something super heavy. Obviously, stuff like a topwater rod, you don't need a high-end rod for that. You know, just pick and choose what's best for those applications. If you guys have questions, always feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I'm always willing to help you guys out with specific things, use my experience, and maybe I can give some recommendations to you guys. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, I hope that this video has answered some of the questions that you guys have had on my setups. But of course, if you guys have any other questions, once again, feel free to drop them below. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.